This is Spare Time Repair, and this is a Pioneer PD-103 CD player. This model is from 1994, before the brand ditched their classic logo for the current monstrosity. It powers up fine and there are no issues with the display, which is clear and bright. The loading tray operation is also working, revealing the Starship album that was left inside, but when I close the tray it refuses to read or play it. Tilt the player and there's also an ominous rattling sound, which may or may not have something to do with the fault. I'm not a big fan of the Pioneer aesthetic from this era, but it does have some nice features like direct track access, random play, peak search and, highlight? There's also a display off option, but this apparently only takes effect during playback. The lack of a digital output, however, points to this being a fairly run-of-the-mill mid-range device, but since it only cost me $8, I should be able to turn a profit on it, if I can get it running. I looked up that highlight function and apparently it plays the first few seconds of every track on the disc. I'm just trying to imagine why you would want to do that. Alright, so what has been causing that rattle? Oh, well I wasn't expecting that. It's another CD. Well, how did that get there? Is that the only issue? I'm slightly gobsmacked. I think that might be the only problem this machine has. That disc is wedged hard in there and is stopping the laser from moving. Incredible. So let's plug it in. We can now remove our disc, which is John Tesh, live at Red Rocks. But if that was wedged in hard, it didn't sound like it was a CD that was rattling. No, there's definitely still something else rattling here. Oh, what? Well, you're not going to believe this. I need to take this off to show you. The rattle was this spring, and the laser is completely missing. It is game over for this player. What the hell happened to it? So that disc wasn't actually stopping anything from moving, I don't think. The reason it's not reading discs is because there's nothing to read it with. Well, you win some, you lose some. I did score 2 free CDs that I didn't want, and I've got some spare parts, but that's really disappointing. Well, is it just the top lens that's come off, or the entire laser? If I look at it through my phone... No, the laser's still there. It's just the lens that's come off. Or maybe it is still in here somewhere. Perhaps that rattling wasn't the spring. But then what is the spring for? It feels like there should be something else on top here. Yeah, there's still something rattling. I'm going to unplug it and delve a bit deeper. Even if I can't fix it, I want to try and understand what's gone on a bit better. Oh! Well, I've just found this. I didn't notice that drop out. Just going to try and remove this front panel. So I've unplugged it there. I'm just going to disconnect this flat flex. Ah! I've just found the lens. Okay, well, this is looking a little more hopeful. I mean, does that just sit in there? Or is something else clamping it down? I really need a photo of one of these opened up as a reference. I'm going to try and remove this disc tray front so I can slide the panel off. Okay, that's slid off. And now the tray comes out. So this piece that fell out looks like it clips on here somehow. Oh, and perhaps this spring goes on the end here. There we go. That's got to be right, isn't it? I mean, I found the spring on there, but I can't see why it would be on there, unless there's a cover piece that's meant to be on here, but that doesn't make sense. I mean, I initially thought someone had removed something, but as everything was inside, then if there was a cover piece here, you would expect it to be in here somewhere. Maybe that wedged CD has just forced something to break. Well, I'm really glad I found the lens. I wonder if it just pops in there. What is this for? And how does it stay locked? Well, it can't just sit in there. It must snap in somehow. There's a tiny hook on this end. There must be something to stop this falling out when you turn it upside down. Let's see if I can find a picture online. Well, I haven't found a picture, but I just had a thought. Maybe that spring sits in between these two posts here, and that just gives it the force to keep it in place. Yeah, and there's a magnet in here, so that's... the spring's just been attracted to that. So that explains why the spring ended up there. I feel like Columbo trying to figure this out. This is very fiddly. You can see I've just sat the lens on top there. I think it was just held in place with 4 dabs of glue. Okay, that's on. And yeah, that is holding it in place. I was wondering what that's for. So in the bottom of the tray there's this channel which engages with this peg here, and that just moves it to the side when it closes. And then it lifts the whole mechanism up so the spindle sits under the disc. I wonder, is that enough to fix it? Obviously I need to glue this lens back in place. At least it's easy to clean. So I'm just filming this with my phone. You can see there are 4 little dots of glue just around the lens there. I think that's all that's holding it in. And it's so delicate that I don't think I'll try to remove the old dots of glue. I'll just see if I can add some new ones to the edge. Question is, which way up does it go? I assume it sits in like that. Actually, no, it's not sitting in there like that, so I'm going to turn it over. Must be that way. I don't want to glue it in until I'm sure. I'm struggling to get the tray back in because I think this gear here needs to be in a certain position before you start. Because otherwise it gets so far and then it stops, and obviously it needs to be a bit further in. So I'm going to see if I can find the service manual online, which might give me a clue. I found the service manual and they're really useful, you know. So there's a little arrow down the bottom here that I hadn't noticed, and you have to line it up with this arrow on the gear before you insert the tray. So if we try inserting the tray now, well, it's certainly gone in further. It's not quite centered. Maybe when it's powered up it just pulls it in a bit more. And I couldn't find a picture online of this player opened up. Well, I could, but everyone had got the clamp on top here like this. But on AliExpress I did find a picture of a laser pickup for a similar model that looks just the same, and that does confirm the placement of the spring on that little white nylon piece. And looking closer at this lens I can see some glue residue around the outside that does confirm its orientation. This is going to be pretty delicate, so I'm going to use a toothpick and some E6000. I'm just going to dab some glue roughly where it was before, but it doesn't feel like this lens was ever held in very well. I wonder how many other players have suffered this issue. Glue is quite stringy, so it might not be the best choice, to be honest. It just seems so unlikely that that is going to hold it in. I apply a little more now that it's in situ. Right, so I'm going to put the disc clamp back on. This headphone jack's just flapping around. I'm not terribly impressed by the build quality. It does feel like a typical mid-90s device. Plugging it in. Oh, okay, it just had to clip under the disc clamp a little bit. Let's try it again. Wow, it's read the disc. And it appears to be playing. Let's get the headphones out. Well, I really didn't expect this to work after finding that lens cover missing. Whoops. Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that at all. Incredible. Although yet again, for a CD player that I've found in a thrift store, it doesn't keep the table of contents. So it reads the disc, tells you how long it lasts, and then it disappears. Maybe I have to press this time button. Yeah, okay. So I did look at the manual for this, and it is quite fancy. There's computational features, so you can, if you were recording onto a cassette, say, that's 45 minutes per side, it will work out how many tracks it can fit into that time while leaving the shortest gap possible at the end. So if you weren't worried about the order of the tracks, then that would have been quite a nice feature. Let's try that display off function while it's playing back. Okay. It's quite amusing that it says display off on the display, but I suppose that's just to remind you that you've got that selected. But then as soon as you press stop, presumably that'll come back. Yeah. Random play. Oh, well, that's not very random. Nor is that. What? Well, maybe it only works when you let it play through, because it's skipping forward in order. So it says R&D for random, but you would think it would move on to the next random track when you skip forward. See, they're all staying lit. So if I fast forward to the end of the track, okay, then it randomizes. That's a little different to what I expected, but okay. So how do you turn off the random? Oh, clear. Oh, you just stop the disc. Well, I can't say it excites me as a CD player, but I'm happy it's working. I'm just wondering how the hell a CD got trapped around the back, because this is clamped in pretty hard. Unless someone tried to put 2 discs in at once. I just really can't see how that would have happened. Anyway, I'm going to remove the front panel again, get it all cleaned up, and then we'll connect it to the amplifier and see how it sounds there. I'm going to remove these boards in the front panel so I can scrub it under running water. Well, interestingly, there are markers for screw holes here, but there are only 3 screws in there. I can't decide whether someone else has been in here before or not. So this should all unclip. I've broken a bit off the top there, but just here, I don't think that really matters. Here we go. Question mark character at the end there. Perhaps that's for when you're programming it and it's asking for input. Unlike some of the other vacuum fluorescent displays I've seen, there's a residue on the inside of this window. You see where I smeared my finger. So, yep, these buttons all pop out. So that makes it very easy for cleaning. So I'll give these a good bath and then we'll get it back together. I've cleaned everything up, but before I put it back together, there are a couple of areas where some gold paint has gone missing. On the power button, it looks like there was originally some gold detail on here. So I'm going to try and touch that up with a gold Sharpie. Hopefully if I'm careful I can just do it by hand. Well, I wasn't very careful, was I? And also on this Pioneer logo, the proper logo. It's not an exact match, but it's an improvement. See if I can wipe this off. Well, it's better than it was. I gave the lid a good scrub, but it's still got this sort of mottled effect to it. So hopefully the shoe shine pad will get rid of that. This pad is not as good as the one I used to have in England. So here we are back together, and even with it cleaned up and working, I can't get excited about this player. I just find it underwhelming. But it is now hooked up to the amplifier, so let's look at a couple of the features. Obviously you have a repeat function, time remaining of the track and the album. Display off, as we've already seen. It's got index markers for different parts of the same track. It's got a peak search function, which was rendered kind of irrelevant by the loudness wars and brick wall limiting. Let's look at that highlight function. Okay, so it starts 1 minute into the track and it plays 10 seconds. I mean, I just cannot see any point to that. Another thing I don't like is the table of contents isn't permanent. So I showed earlier that you can cycle through to display it, but if I then play and stop, it's gone again. This has been a feature of the CD players I've found recently. They just don't display the table of contents in stop mode. And I don't know why I find that so annoying. So peak search. It's just going to go through every single track, finding the loudest level. And this would be for recording off the CD onto a tape so that you can calibrate the tape to the loudest portion of the disc. I mean, it's doing it quite quickly, to be fair. And presumably when it's finished it will play back the section that has the loudest bit. Yeah, and it's saying it's this 5-second section of track 6. So you would just let that keep repeating while you calibrated your cassette, and then you'd be safe to record it. But these are features I wouldn't personally be interested in now, and they're just not necessary. Let's just look at the program function. Okay, there's that question mark. So we'll have track 6, track 8, track 3. Tells you the total time. And I guess you just press play. And then presumably clear would get rid of that. Oh, it does it one by one. So how do we clear it all together? Oh, okay, just press stop. So I'm not sure how the computational thing works, but... Okay, time... Oh. Okay, so it's saying for a 45-minute cassette time, like one side of a 90. Well, this whole album is less than 45 minutes, so let's say... So it's saying side A, 22 minutes 58. Side B, 4 tracks, 17:37. What if we want... Well, it didn't give me a chance. Okay, so you can cycle through 45, 90, 74, 60. 60-minute cassette, it's figured out that these tracks will leave just a 41-second gap at the end, and then you've got these 3 tracks on the next side. So it's pretty clever, but probably not something you need in 2025. So yeah, I'm not going to be keeping this machine, I just don't like it. I'm sure somebody would appreciate it and I could probably flip it for $25 or more. But for now, that's it. So thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.